coming to a sunrise. So what my eyes, that moment I visualize is coming. If you can see me now, see I'm gonna break through the life I knew. Been waiting, a dream come true. Still aiming. If you could see me now, if you could see me now.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We are here with another Hunter x Hunter review and breakdown. This is for anyone who didn't get to come to the stream last Saturday night. We actually had a lot of fun. We talked about it in the chat. You guys got to see my live reactions. So if you guys want to be a part of that, I will be streaming the next 3 episodes of Hunter x Hunter next Saturday night starting at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But here we are. We're going to cover episodes 122, 123, and 124. And these episodes are the epitome of blue balls. I was so upset because I wanted to make sure I knew what we were going into. So I looked up what episode 121 was. 122, because it sounded familiar. And it was supposed to be the start of Meruem versus Netero. And that's what I thought we were going into. Apparently I was wrong. But when episode 122 starts off with Meruem and Netero flying with Zeno's dragon to an abandoned military weapons testing site. Netero brought them there so that way they can, go all out without having to worry about hurting anybody. And as soon as they get there, Netero's ready to fight, but Meruem just like, listen, I don't want to fight you. You're old. If you back down right now, I'll consider letting you live. And Netero is like, is that right? That's nice. But I don't want to take that offer. While they're going back and forth, we actually jump over to see what's going on with Gon, Pitou, and Poof. Pitou is actually telling Poof what happened. That's where we left in 121. Poof wanted to know what had happened. Pitou is describing it, but as the narrator's talking, because we don't actually get to hear the explanation, the narrator explains that Pitou is adding in details that Gon shouldn't have known, especially about the relationship between the king and Komugi, to see if to force Gon to focus on Pitou. And some of the things that Pitou said actually resonated with Gon, and his expression softened just a little bit. But by the end of it, Pitou points out the door and says the king left that way with the intruders, to let Poof know the direction that the king went. So after the explanation's done, Pitou's just like, I'm working on the girl. Poof's like, fine, we will stay here and wait for the king. When in reality, he starts using his Beelzebub ability to start leaving segments out of his back. He says apparently he only needs 1/7 of his full body to maintain his appearance as being there, while the rest of him is able to just leave and go to the king. But like, the way he was saying it, he just doesn't understand the way these characters have changed, and I can't stand Poof. Back over to Meruem and Netero, and Meruem sits down while Netero's, flexing his aura, and he tells him, I'm not going to fight you. I don't want to fight you. I came with you here so we could talk. And he starts explaining what he actually wants to do. That he realizes, after his experiences with Komugi, what strength is really for. That strength is to protect the weak, to protect those who can't, fight for themselves. Someone could have all the talent in the world, be the most intelligent person in the world, but not have the physical ability to defend themselves, and thus they are forced into subjugation by somebody who doesn't deserve it. And he doesn't like that about the human world, so he wants to change the world into a place where people can all be equal and live their lives according to their abilities. And Netero points out that his Chimera Ant side and his human side are in clashing, and he doesn't know which way he's going to land. But Netero is here to do a job. He was hired to take care of the ants. That is the whole reason he is here. Even if he wanted to agree with what Meruem was doing, he still has to kill him. That's his job. And he even says, he's like, I have to end this quickly before my heart is swayed. And we get to see his actual Nen ability. The 100 type Guanyin Bodhisattva. What a mouthful. He summons this thing looking like some Hashirama style fucking ninjutsu, and apparently he uses martial arts to control it and make it attack. He brings down his hand like he's doing a chop, and it drops one of the hands right onto Meruem with a direct hit. And we don't see it right away how much damage it did, but I'll tell you right now, it left a crater. Now, we go back over to Poof, who's flying toward the king, and he runs into Yuppie. Yuppie is still, half centaur man, but he doesn't sense anybody else fighting because, nobody else is fighting. Netero and Meruem are too far away. Yuppie stopped fighting. Poof is technically supposed to be up with Pito and Gon, but his little self flies over to Yuppie, and he starts explaining to Yuppie what's been going on. And while he's explaining, the rest of his segments come together, and he reforms a second body. And by the time he's done telling Yuppie what's going on, Yuppie's like, okay, I understand. Yuppie understands what Pito is doing and why Pito did it. We actually see Yuppie go through the memories of his fights with Knuckles, Shoot, and Moro, and Melioron, and he gets it. But Poof doesn't. Poof doesn't understand the change in Pito, and he's just like, I hope this change benefits the king, but I highly doubt it. And it frustrated me so much that I just wanted to choke him. Because he thinks humans are such a worthless species. Even Meruem, the king, was the first one to really see the potential of humans. But Poof doesn't care. He thinks humans are just food. He is the only one that not only doesn't see human potential, fuck what the king thinks, apparently. Because the king thinks there's something special there, but all he sees is that a race that should be dominated. Poof is not loyal to the king. I've said it before in my other reactions, in my other reviews, if you guys have heard them. Poof is loyal to his idea of what the king should be. And it's just really? Sorry. We actually have to see Yuppie transform again. He actually grows wings out of his back and out of his horse butt. And him and Poof start flying off toward the king. Poof actually kind of tested Yuppie by asking him what they should do now. And Yuppie answers they should go to the king. That's the only choice they had. So they go off toward the king. And we see Meruem get out of the crater. And again, he sits down. And he's just like, I'm not going to fight you. Well, this isn't happening. And Netero attacks him again. And you see his Bodhisattva grab his hands together on Meruem. And Meruem actually forces them apart. Netero backs up, actually kind of scared of what Meruem could do. But he sits down again. He's like, listen, I get that you're in a rush to die, but the only thing we're going to exchange is words. And Netero's thinking to himself, I don't want to do this. It's not as simple as just deciding not to do it. If I didn't have to do it, I wouldn't be doing it. But something Meruem said, it catches his attention. He said, we will exchange words. And he's like, words? He's like, okay, how about this? How about if you can make me surrender, I will tell you your name. This bugged me out because that is the one thing in the entire freaking world that Meruem wants because he doesn't have it. He's wanted his name for a bunch of episodes now, for days, and Netero even tells him, my subordinates were there when your mother died. They heard her give you your name. They're probably dead now, fighting your royal guard. So the only one who knows your name is me. So Meruem gets up. He's like, okay, so you want me to fight you and make you surrender without killing you? And he compares it to a chess match. He's like, okay, so I'm playing chess without a rook and without a bishop. And he actually, takes a stance to fight. He's like, fine, I'll checkmate you quickly. And he starts flexing his aura. And then Netero finally gets ready to fight. His aura turns from white to gold. He jumps in the air. And the episode cuts out. The episode ends with them getting ready to fight. And this is why I said this was blue balls. Because I was ready. I was absolutely ready for this fight. But then we go over to episode 123, and the next two episodes are completely apart from the fight. 120. These episodes got me mad because they don't affect the fight at all. They could have literally put at the end of the fight to wrap up the other characters, but they want to put it right in the middle of the fight, and I'm just like, why? But anyway, 123. This is, we might as well call this Ikalgo's episode because this episode was all him. And these next two episodes were good. They just weren't what I wanted to see. Ikalgo is still in the control room crying his eyes out from not being able to kill Gloucester. But camera pans over, and we see the gates that he sealed Gloucester in start to lift because Bezef, Hina, and Hina's servant are in a truck driving to the vault. Ikalgo realizes they're open, just a little too late, because up behind him is Welfin. Welfin goes to start interrogating him. He uses his Nen ability. You guys remember the missiles? He asks a question, the missiles find you. You lie about the question, they blow you up. Ikalgo turns around, pulls out his air rifle, and immediately shoots Welfin. No hesitation, but he shoots him in the arm. He doesn't want to kill Welfin. Well, Welfin fires his Nen ability, and it does no damage to Ikalgo. Turns out, if you can attack him before he can ask you the question, then his missiles don't do anything. But something happens to Ikalgo. You see in his head here, it looks like worms in his head. Turns out that his Welfin's Nen ability has another part to it. It puts these black centipedes inside of you, and the more you defy him, the bigger they grow, until they eventually rip through you. Well, Ikalgo fucking straight grew a pair, and he just didn't care. He just loads up his gun and shoots Welfin again. And he goes, and as he does that, they start growing super fast. He loads his gun up, shoots him again, and Welfin is trying to ask him questions. He's not answering. He's like, "You're not gonna get anything out of me." And Welfin's like, "He's trying to kill me." And if him trying to kill me is like the ultimate form of defiance, he's just gonna make the black centipedes grow faster. It gets to the point where their legs literally pierce through Ikalgo's flesh and are starting to tear through his skull. And he's just like, he says it's so easy. It's so easy to just pull the trigger. If the cost is just my life, at least I'll be able. His goal is to stop Welfin from moving. He doesn't want Welfin to go after his friends. He's not going to give him any information. He's going to keep him there, and he doesn't even care if it costs his life. And as he's getting ready to shoot Welfin again, Welfin starts to freak out because he's just like, Welfin is terrified at the prospect of fighting somebody who's not afraid to give their life. He's never had to fight that before. And seeing it on Ikalgo's face, that even though he's about to die with these monster centipedes to rip through his skull, he is willing to die for his friends. And this hits Welfin in the core to the point where Welfin starts to back off. And as he starts to back off, the centipedes stop attacking Ikalgo and start almost writhing in pain. So Ikalgo starts using that to determine what Welfin says is truth or lies. If they start moving around again, he knows he's lying. If they start, dying off, he knows he's telling the truth. And he tries to get Welfin to deactivate it, but Welfin has no idea how to deactivate it. But he starts talking about his Nen ability, and he thinks, Nen's so cool that his Nen ability reflects his personality. And that clicks something in Ikalgo's head. So he starts asking Welfin if Welfin has any memories of when he was still human. Apparently, majority of the Chimerians have memories of when they were human. Ikalgo asks him that, and at first he lies about it, but then he gets him to talk about it. And it turns out that he was one of the soldiers in white from the NGL that worked in the underground that were killed by the ugly Centaur Chimera ant, whose name escapes me right now. It was Yunju and his two servants, that's what it was. So they went into the underground hideout and they killed them all. And apparently Welfin's human form was one of them. And he, unfortunately, was fed to the queen. And I guess right from the moment he was born as a Chimera ant, he still retained some of his memories. It's a really scary thought, but then he starts talking about the memory he doesn't want to remember. Because he has a human memory of his parents, his father trying to kill him. No context why, just him choking out. And was supposed to be his mother or stepmother just watching it happen. And it turns out the only person that saved him soon became, was his best friend, or he called him his brother, even though they weren't related by blood. And it turns out it was Gyro, the king of the NGL. This is when they were still kids. The king was also eaten by the queen, so we don't know what ended up happening to him. But apparently he might actually be a Chimera ant too. But once he, spilled his guts about it, he admitted that the only thing he wants out of his life right now is to see his friend Gyro again. And when he admits that, the centipedes turn to smoke and they're gone. And Ikalgo's free. Ikalgo ends up questioning him about, if he saw a human woman in in the castle because his only mission left is to find Palm. And he explains that, yeah, there was a human woman that Pito and Poof put in a cocoon. And Ikago goes off because he thinks that might be Palm. He asks Welfin where it is, and he's like, right out the elevator, take a left. And he goes off, and Welfin's just happy, and he starts laughing, and Ikago asks what's up, and he's just like, I didn't realize it felt so good to tell the truth. And it was actually a really, really nice moment. Well, the last thing we see is said cocoon, and we see a scaled hand rip out of it, and a woman comes out of it with long black hair. And we get to see the face of who it is, and it is clearly Palm, now transformed into what looks like a chimera ant. And I don't know how they did it, but on to the next episode we went. So the episode kicks off with an explanation from the narrator. It turns out that when the narrator talks about all the humans that are there, and they're still hypnotized, waiting for the Chimera Ants to fuck with them. It turns out that the goal of the Chimera Ants was to use whatever humans they felt were worthy enough, and turn them into ants. They were basically using Palm as an experiment 1, to test their method on her before using it on the masses. And obviously she's a success because she's a whole Chimera Ant now. And yeah. Then we jump over to Killua. Killua is actually finishing charging up. And now, as soon as he's done charging up, he takes off and goes to find Go. As he's running down the hallways, he freezes because he feels like somebody's watching him. So he uses his yo-yo to peek around the corner to see who's watching him because he says that somebody he feels like he knows. And he sees a dark silhouette approaching him. He goes to see what it is, and he ends up being Palm. They start talking. She starts asking where Gon is. Killua is just like, he starts freaking out because he's like, Gon can't see Palm. The way she's altered, if her psyche's been altered at all, Gon will lose it, especially after what happened to Kite. The fact that Palm is asking to see Gon triggers something in Killua because Killua knows Palm's ability. Or he says that Palm's been able to watch them through some sort of form of divination, or more likely, clairvoyance. We know her ability is, if she's met you, she can use her blood to track you. But we don't know how her ability has changed as an ant. But she wants to find Gon. And he just, something inside of him gets him questioning, why do you want to go see Gon? And she's like, no reason, I just want to see him. He's like, I'm not going to tell you where he is, because you're an enemy. And when he calls her an enemy, he gets ready to fight because, she's getting aggressive about asking. This triggers something in her. She starts spouting, some venom at him. Not actual venom, like she starts talking trash to him. Like, you're always such a, a rude boy, always getting in the way. And we get to see her ability. So, Palm is an enhancer, just like Gon. But what she does now, she actually wraps her hair around her entire body like a suit of armor. Or looking like the wife of Alucard, if you guys have ever seen Hellsing. And it's called Black Widow, and basically it's a giant defensive tool that protects her like a suit of armor. And she just goes to town on Killua. Just starts beating the ever-living shit out of him. He tries to defend himself. She actually punches and destroys one of his yo-yos with one punch, which nobody's done since he's pulled out the yo-yos. So Killua and her go back and forth. Killua is completely on the defensive. He can't stop her. And she's actually doing damage, even though he's blocking, because, he's not an enhancer. He's taking a lot of damage. And he says if the fight drags out, she's gonna kill him. Well, she literally beats him to the end of the hallway. And he finally stops. He's like, stop, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have called you an enemy. I just freaked out seeing your appearance. And he's just like, I'll tell you where Gon is if you stop right now, but I have one condition. Gon is in a really dark place right now because of what happened to somebody he respects. He's like, they lost their very soul. So if you're going to go see him, you have to make sure you let him know that you're okay. That you need to call him by his name, at least call him by his name. And he's like, if you do that, I'll tell you where he is. And then it goes to Killua's face, and he just starts crying his eyes out. And this got me. For anybody that wasn't there when we watched this live, I'm sorry, but I got so emotional because we never see Killua this vulnerable. But he admits that Palm is the only one who could save him because he can't do anything else for Gon. and he drops to his knees, bawling his eyes out, and he's just like, "Please help Gon." And we see what really happened, and out of Palm's hair comes one of Poof's Beelzebubs, and he tries to get Palm to attack Killua, who is now defenseless. And we get the whole backstory of what actually happened to Palm. So when Palm made it into the palace and Pito's end reactivated, Palm actually tried to kill herself. She stabbed herself in the heart. But before she could die, her body was found by Pito and Poof. And on instinct, reflexively, when Pito, reactivated his end, Palm activated her own as an instinct to defend herself. And because of that, they realized that she had powerful Nen. So they used Dr. Blythe to not only revive her or keep her from dying, they also did brain surgery on her to disconnect her memories from her emotions. Basically, the way, how Laol and Cheetu and all them started getting Nen abilities, it was because they maintained their human memories, and Poof was putting them in the chrysalises and letting them come out with new Nen abilities. And the more they remembered it from their human lives, the stronger they were mentally, and so were their abilities. So they wanted to use Palm as a test subject to see if they could separate her memory from her emotions and basically make her the ultimate soldier when going from human to ant. And it worked. She had no emotions, but Killua pleading about Gon snapped something out of her, and her emotions reconnected to her. And she refused to attack Killua, and Poof was just like, number one, attack him. And she's like, "No, my name is Palm Siberia, not number one, don't call me that again." And she turns around and just mollywops the Poof Beelzebub, and it just shatters and turns back into particles. She deactivates her Nen ability, and she starts talking to Killua, and she explains what happened, that she felt like there was a wall between her and her emotions, but Killua was able to break it down. And she explains to Killua that he needs to not give up, because she's not the only one who could do something for Gon. More than anybody else, Gon needs Killua. And this face that comes on Killua was just it got me in my heart. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. We go back over to Poof and Youpi, and Poof is just like a complete failure. He's super upset that it didn't work out. But again, we get to see into his mind, and I just want to punch him in the throat. He basically says, "It's fine then. Soldiers don't need memories. They don't need emotions. So I can just make a kingdom of mindless soldiers, and that'll actually make it easier for me to make a kingdom for me and the king." And that's how he words it. He's like, "Fuck the rest of the royal guard. Fuck the rest of this Chimerians. All he's worried about is him and the king." And that's where it ends. And honestly, the dude's ridiculously selfish. Anyway, that's where those episodes end. I looked it up. Episode 125 and 126 are where the actual fight happens. So I am excited to stream those this weekend. So I hope you guys will come join us. I hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown and can see why I got so frustrated. I love this series, but God, sometimes the pacing sucks. But that is it for me, guys. Drop a like if you enjoyed it, and I will catch you on the next video. Later.